Hi and welcome to video number 2. I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about catering to your students and developing them further. So the questions here are really targeted to you getting to know your students, what their context is, what's going on around them, and then utilizing that within your classroom to help make the content more authentic, to make it more meaningful, and to help engage your students in a more authentic way. So the first question says, how does this program cater to or address students' different socioeconomic statuses? So think about your current students in your class or who are going to go through this unit and their cultural background. Sometimes you might need to actually analyze this at more of a school level, and so you might use the My Schools website to get a bit more information or statistical data about your school, or you might need to talk to your deputy or your principal to get some more information. But you want to really be looking at where they're sitting in terms of their socioeconomic status. So that's, what kind of work are their parents doing? What kind of income do they have? And what kind of level of education do they have? And then thinking about how that will impact the students that you have as well in terms of their level of education and their access to technology and those types of things. So think about where your students are at and how you can develop that further in your program that you're currently doing. The second question, how does this program meet students' social needs and develop them further? So again, we're looking at our students in terms of where they're at in terms of their overall development, particularly here focusing in on their social needs. And so how they're going with their maturity, are they professional, and how they go with their collaborative skills, anything like that. And so you want to think about how you can include those types of things and develop them socially throughout this unit as well. Our next question says, how does this program meet students' intellectual needs and develop them further? So this really needs to be based on data. What data do you have that tells you where your students are at? What are their interests? What is their current level of knowledge in relation to the content that you're going to be covering in that unit? Do students already know most of the content that you're going to be covering and therefore you are wasting their time? Or maybe students still don't know some of the prior knowledge that they need for this unit to actually be able to grasp it and for the unit to be challenging and yet at that learning zone and not so far ahead that they're going to just give up. You need to make sure that you actually know this information. And so where in your unit or program are you gathering this information? Or how have you based it on NAPLAN results? Or how have you based it on last year's assessment results for these students? So you want to really be looking at this and also thinking about what your student goals are. Where are they actually trying to get with this learning? Do they want to learn as much as they possibly can? Or sometimes we get those students who are just at school and aren't really caring about things that are going on because maybe they're already set up for what's going to happen next in their life. Maybe they really just want to go and work for their parents in their parents' business. They already are quite skilled in it. They work there all the time in the holidays. And so what's going on in your classroom, and if it doesn't directly relate to what they've got, is actually you're going to be struggling. So make sure you actually know their goals and where they're going with that, and making sure that what you're creating in your unit is at the level of challenge that actually creates learning and not too far ahead and not too easy. Next, how does this program cater to students' different cultural backgrounds? So we've already talked a bit about Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders, but you want to think about all the different cultures that might exist in your class. So have a look at that breakdown. Your executive will be able to give you some of that kind of information. But you want to think about, have you got a high immigrant population, for example? Do you have lots of ESL students who are learning English at the same time as trying to learn your content, and how can you make things easier for them? Or maybe you can capitalize on the fact that you have a really sporty class in front of you that love to be physically active, and so how can you actually cater to that and help provide learning that requires them to be more active and moving around physically to enable them to really grasp what's going on? So just thinking through that, maybe even think of their religious beliefs. Is this in the middle of Ramadan and you're going to ask them to run a marathon, in which case you might want to rethink that. So just making sure that you've got that thought process before it comes up. You don't want to be reacting to these things. You want to make sure that you've thought through them before you've even created, or as you're evaluating, in this case, your units. The last question for catering to our students is, how does this program cater to students' different linguistic backgrounds? So here, have you got throughout your units some vocab cards that students can use to learn the actual language of your content? Have you looked at your NAPLAN or your LLN results? If you don't know what LLN is, it's literacy, learning and numeracy, to actually identify where your students are at with their language and how you can best progress them forward. Making sure too, some cultures in their original language don't have time reference, or they don't have space reference. And so you need to think about those things when you're creating a unit and when you're going to have to talk to these students, how you're going to really cater to that aspect within them and teach them the ideas of future and past, which is very much embedded throughout our English language. So that's it for this video. Next, we're going to be having a look at how our students learn, which actually is one of the things that excites me the most. So I can't wait for you guys to get your next email with a video that talks to you about how students in your classroom are going about their learning.